All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Today we have a presentation by Brian Sedora and Shelley from AGU. Brian is the project coordinator of the Notebooks Now project and a senior manager of the publications and data leadership at AGU, while Shelley Stoll is the vice president for the AGU's Open Science and Leadership program, and she also serves on the board of research data and information of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine and the Roundtable on the aligning incentives for open scholarship, among many other things. So today, both Brian and Shelley are going to be introducing the Notebooks Now, an end-to-end scholarly publishing workflow that would treat notebooks both in Jupyter and R Markdown as a primary element of the scientific record. And with that, Brian, please take the stand. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daniel, for that great introduction. And hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to show you what we've been working on. So as Daniel mentioned, I'm here to talk about Notebooks Now, the project that Shelley and I and many others have been working on for the past nearly 2 years. I'll start out with what is Notebooks Now? So Notebooks Now is a community-driven effort through a grant from Sloan to define standards and workflows for the publishing with computational notebooks that elevate that notebook as the primary scholarly output that is submitted, peer-reviewed, and formally included as the version of record. This aims to be a shift from the current publishing models where static HTML and PDF is first, and notebooks and other dynamic material are treated as supporting information. It's important for me to highlight that the community element of this project, everything that we've accomplished and still aim to accomplish would not have been possible without the expertise, the guidance, and the support from experts in the computational notebook and publishing communities. We have a steering committee that is comprised of experts from both communities. And as I'll talk about in a minute, over 60 experts who attended our kickoff workshop and well over 100 who were part of our working groups and continue to be involved. I want to take a minute to ground the conversation of who AGU is and what we do to provide some background on our motivations for this project. AGU is a society publisher in the Earth and Space Sciences. We have 24 peer-reviewed journals. 12 of those are fully open access, and 12 of those are hybrid, with many being converted to open access at the pace of about 1 per year. We have over 800 editors and associate editors who volunteer their time on our journals, and we receive more than 17,000 submissions, and we publish more than 8,000 research articles every year. We also have a books program, and last year, new for 2024, is an open access component of the books program, so we're very excited about that. Dr. Peter Fox, who's pictured here, was editor-in-chief of our journal Earth and Space Science from 2019 until he passed away in 2021. He's dearly missed. Peter was a visionary. It was Peter's idea that we can have a new format for computational notebooks. He saw this as a really important for reproducibility, for transparency, and a format that's being heavily used in many disciplines. Peter also understood the challenges. He knew that submission systems, publication systems, and downstream services were not prepared to handle notebooks with full compute. He did it anyway. So he recruited author teams to submit notebook-based manuscripts to Earth and Space Science beginning in 2019. And in 2021, 2 such manuscripts published. And it should be noted that they published as the traditional HTML PDF, not as the notebook component first. And I'll come back to these in a minute. But this work formed the foundation and motivation for Notebooks Now. So looking a bit deeper, what exactly are the benefits of computational notebooks for the researcher? We know that many scientists already use notebooks for organizing their data and code, sharing their results with colleagues more informally. So turning this into a publication format and getting them to think differently about the use of a notebook from the start has several benefits. A notebook with integrated data improves reproducibility. A reader can execute notebooks against your data. A notebook with integrated data provides a much better starting point for reuse of your data and building upon your work. And a notebook allows for much greater interactivity than a static figure or text that allows a reader to explore your data or results. And so the benefits for the reader or end user are similar because a notebook allows for the code, data, graphics, and narrative to be combined into a single document. This adds functionality, for example, animations, sliders, interactive graphics, and much more that is possible. And again, it aims to improve transparency. So this can accelerate research by providing that direct access to linked data. Very briefly, I want to mention our project timeline. We began this effort in 2022 when we were awarded the grant from Sloan and quickly set out to form a steering committee comprised of experts. With their help, we identified as many community stakeholders as we could and invited them to our November 2022 workshop. And following the workshop, we formed working groups that focused on specific areas of the workflow. And their work led to the first phase, the first pilot phase in 2023. And that brings us to where we are now. So our approach, both at the 2022 workshop and following it, was the formation of 5 specific working groups focused on each area of the workflow. Pre-submission focused on the authoring elements such as templates and considerations for authors to begin notebook-based submissions. Metadata focused on those elements that, in addition to a standard article metadata, would need to be captured. Editorial and peer review focused on everything that happened between submission and acceptance. Production and post-production focused on everything that happened post-acceptance. And content consumer considered the needs of the end user, including what education would be needed. The work of these groups concluded with recommendations, best practices, templates, draft instructions, getting us ready to take into the next step, which was to pilot the workflow. We set out to accomplish this through a multi-phase pilot. I love this graphic, so I wanted to include it in this slide deck. Shelley loves it too. Phase 1 targeted the beginning and end of the workflow, so kind of bookend the workflow. So looking at the researcher's experience preparing a computational notebook as a paper. And on the tail end, as a platform for publication that included the compute. The pre-submission working group developed templates for both single notebook or multiple notebooks, and with built-in standards such as Mecca for increased portability and adoption across a multitude of publishers. Phase 2 will target peer review and will further refine publication elements such as DOI registration with Crossref, article display and linking between our CurveNote partner platform and Wiley, who is our traditional publisher. We plan to work with up to 6 author teams that are identified, that have been identified by the editor-in-chief of Earth and Space Science, one of our journals, for this phase. And CurveNote will offer a concierge service to those authors to work with them to take full advantage of the capabilities of this format. And phase 3 will target the integration of the full workflow from beginning to end. Our goal is to smooth out full publishing workflow to ensure ease of use and scalability. In phase 1, we set out, which we completed last year, we set out to turn the working group recommendations into a proof of concept that demonstrated these capabilities. We initially envisioned several pilots. We weren't really sure where we were going. We envisioned several pilots to test out and build this workflow. We knew we didn't have the technical expertise in-house. CurveNote emerged as our technology partner with pretty much unanimous agreement from the working groups. Both Rowan Cockett, who is the CEO of CurveNote, and Steve Purves, who's co-founder, they were both highly engaged in the working group activity. And they were, in fact, already working on a publishing solution. So CurveNote, let me go back here. Whoops. CurveNote helped us with that proof of concept and gave us something to showcase at our annual meeting last year in San Francisco. So remember those 2 papers that Peter Fox recruited? We went back to those authors and we said, okay, here, we can finally deliver on Peter's promise. for you to have an interactive computational notebook publication. So those authors, Kayla and Lynn, were thrilled to see their research reimagined and were able to provide us with input from the author's perspective. Very beneficial to have them be a part of this project. And those reimagined papers, one which this animation is looping here, and I'll drop the link in chat after I stop sharing. We do have a showcase site that you can explore. And I just wanted to show you another. So here we have another demo of an interactive figure that allows the reader to explore the results instead of having a single static. This slide and the last slide came from Rowan. He was happy for me to show these off to the group. If I have time, I could show some more. And this is our showcase site. So I'll drop a link to this after the presentation. So looking ahead, with the success of the showcase, demonstrating the proof of concept that it is achievable, we're setting our sights on expanding the pilot, and we're doing this through testing live submissions. Phase 2 and Phase 3 both focus on testing with live submissions. The goal for these phases is to really dig into the details of the workflow, testing the templates, testing the submission system, ironing out peer review, working closely with author teams, with peer reviewers, with CurveNote and Wiley on the publication aspects, and with those downstream services to connect all the pieces together. And just very briefly going into detail for Phase 2, we're working with Graziella Caprarelli, who's the editor-in-chief of Earth and Space Science. She's working to identify author teams that have notebook submissions, and importantly, that they meet the scientific rigor and are within the scope of Earth and Space Science. So it's not guaranteed that someone will submit something to this pilot and it'll get accepted. It still has to meet that rigor for the journal Earth and Space Science. CurveNote will provide their concierge service, which is, again, designed to help authors, because this is a new thing. So authors may not realize the full potential of what notebooks can do, and CurveNote's going to help them for this Phase 2 batch of manuscripts. And it's a very hands-on supported approach to getting these manuscripts published. And then in Phase 3, we'll take this further by, again, identifying 3 to 6 author teams. But this time, they'll build their notebooks from scratch using our templates. And it'll be more of a hands-off approach. Then this will also allow us to refine all areas of the workflow to prep for scaling up. And this leads us to our final phase, and I think my final slide, which will be announced. It's going to be research article computational notebook as a manuscript submission type. We aim to launch this in Earth and Space Science for all authors, not restricted to pre-invited author teams. That's the goal. We don't have an exact timeline on that. That'll depend on the success of Phases 2 and Phase 3. And at the same time, we'll be publishing resources and working to spread the word to other societies and publishers. I do want to mention, for the sake of full transparency, that we are currently in a funding gap. Our grant from Sloan ended earlier this year. And although they were very excited to see the work that we've accomplished, they were unable to fund us in their last funding cycle. We're pursuing several funding opportunities. We're optimistic in our outlook to continue very soon. In the meantime, we've had to slow our work a little bit, but we aim to get back on track as soon as possible. And with this, I see that I'm at time, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Actually, I'll go to this last slide. If you have any questions or if you want to be involved in the project at all, please reach out to me and or Shelley, and I'd be happy to give you more info on the demo or anything else that I can provide to you. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see if anyone has any. I don't know if Daniel, if there's time for questions or comments or feedback.
Yes, of course, there is time for questions. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Thank you very much.